Hello, it's Alexa, and you're listening to the Wishbeads Podcast. Today, I have the honor of speaking with Jessie Mahoney, MD. She is a pediatrician, physician coach, wellness keynote speaker, and founder of Pause and Presence. And the reason why I know her is because she is an incredible fan of Wishbeads and uses them at her retreats. And after so many orders, I am so thrilled that she reached out and said, let's talk about this. I would love to share with you how I'm using them and helping the physicians that I serve. And I just thought that was absolutely fortuitous because in the evolution of my company, I am seeing now more than ever that leveraging and inviting retreat leaders and individuals who are in the wellness space to utilize Wishbeads, however they choose, is a way that we expand really the teaching of Wishbeads and how we can bring the power of that physical reminder into our lives to keep us feeling focused and positive and present. And I was just thrilled to really learn more about Jessie and her work and how she's bringing Wishbeads to the people that she serves. So if you are looking to add Wishbeads into some of the work that you do, let's say even with a meaningful group retreat or to gathering of friends, I am sure that you will enjoy this special episode. So Jessie, welcome to the Wishbeads Podcast. I am so thrilled to be talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
And here we are. You know, sometimes when I get a message from someone like I got from you, and I understood just from the volume of your orders that you were really using Wishbeads as part of your practice, I was so excited to talk to you. So just so everyone knows, listening or watching, I am hearing this for the first time.
Perfect. Even better that way.
But as I just shared before we hit record, I was so excited to talk to you because one of my true passions with this company is to invite people to use Wishbeads as a tool for transformation in whatever way they wish. And so it seems to me, and this is what I'm excited to hear about and hear your story, is that you've really embraced that and integrated it in some capacity in your practice. So let's start off by just saying, how did you find out about Wishbeads?
Well, so I found out about Wishbeads because I was gifted a Wishbeads bracelet, and I actually wear them for your podcast just for fun. So I was gifted the Wealth and Wisdom, the jade one, from a coach that I was working with, actually. And so I got it in the mail and I loved it and just sort of became attached to it. And so that is how I found out about them. And then I am a coach, a mindset coach, and I am a physician. And so I work with women physicians, and I work with women physicians one-on-one a lot online, but I also do retreats in person. And I use the Wishbeads at my retreats in person because just the setting and the environment there lends them to it. I have sent a few to a few people who I've been working with for a long time, but I really like to have the person be in person and have that sort of interaction. And so I think I got this probably in the fall of 2021 would be my guess is when I got mine. And then I decided that I was going to get them for the people at my next retreat. And I will say I've been giving them out since then at these retreats. And so there's 7 women at each one. So I've given out 77 apparently. I'm about to do my 14th retreat starting next week. And so the first 2, I didn't know about Wishbeads, so those people missed out. But since then, I've been doing it at the end of the retreat. And partly because I find them so meaningful. And I will say, and I think this is important, it's interesting, I find the stones as meaningful as the wishes. And in the way that I use them, I actually probably use the stones more because the person's going to put their own wish in there, but the stone comes from my interactions with them, if that makes sense.
And so you select someone's stone in advance, knowing what they're
not in advance. This is what's really interesting. So I do buy more than I hand out, and I bring whatever comes to me. So if I have 7 people, I probably bring 10, maybe sometimes I'll bring 12, because I don't usually know them. I usually know one person. So the people who come to my retreats have not worked with me usually before. Maybe a few of them have, but And actually now I'm getting people coming for a second time and a third time. And I've decided, actually, I just gift them another wish bracelet for where they are. And I will say I bought myself my own as a second one because I wanted the love and forgiveness. And I was like, I kept ordering it for giving it to other people. And I was like, I really need that one for me. So I got one for me too.
Nice.
But so I bring a bag full or a basket full, and then I actually gift them out at the last night of so the retreats are 5 nights and 6 days, and they include mostly coaching, and physicians come mostly for the coaching, but I'm also a yoga teacher. So we do yoga twice a day, and we do a lot of mindfulness. They're at a place called Sagrada Wellness, which is near San Luis Obispo, and it's up on a mountaintop. And so it's very much in nature, and the environment is very much a part of it. And my husband does all the cooking. So we do what we call culinary medicine. So it's very much about nourishing your whole spirit, essentially.
I love it.
And so on the last night, I gift these out to people, and I choose the stones based on what I know that they have been coached on, or what they're working on, or what they've shared over the week. And for me, it's actually, sometimes I don't know exactly. I will say sometimes I give people a choice. I'm like, it's either this one or this one, and they instantly know which one it is.
Yeah.
Much of the time I already know which one, but occasionally I can't figure it out. And so then I'll offer them that choice. But I have found it to be, first of all, a really meaningful thing to give. And I will say that when people come, I actually give a number of other things too, with very purposeful, that fit into the retreat at different points. But I think at the end, these are women that work as physicians and have generally crazy lives, and, children and spouses, and, might be a trauma surgeon all at the same time. And so for them to have something to remind them of this experience, one, but also what their hopes and dreams were after doing a week of coaching, is really powerful, I think. And the other thing for physicians is we don't wish, by the way, right? We don't wish for things. We work for goals. Yeah. Many people don't even understand the idea of intentions. Now, as a yoga teacher, I'm intention focused, and I have done kids yoga teacher training. We actually call those wishes and aspirations because kids don't know what an intention is. And so to me, it's just very in alignment with sort of the way that I approach my coaching, which is much more wishing alignment. How do you want to live your life in that sense, as opposed to like a goal oriented, I want to get to this spot. Because I think most people don't know where they want to get. They generally know how they want to feel, which is actually why I love the stones you have, because people are looking for, usually sort of groundedness or centeredness or nurturing
confidence.
Yeah. And so the idea that they are feelings based, and that's sort of what we've been working on anyway, feels so amazing. I have no idea what wishes people put in there, and I don't want to know. I usually just say, like, this is, do it before you get home so you have it. And what I have loved so much, I was actually coaching someone this morning who had been on a retreat. She'd actually coached with me before, but the people are always wearing them, and they're always pointing out that they're still wearing them. She's like, oh, I haven't taken it off. Well, I hope she's taken it off to take a shower. I did warn her about the wet wish, but I think it's just a really special gift. And, many women don't get gifts of bracelets. Maybe they'll, so it's a really nice gesture that they can then carry it forth with them. So I love this idea of wishing, because I think we don't, as I said, doctors don't wish. We're always busy doing things and focusing on the outcome and where we need to get to. And so it's this lighthearted way of sort of carrying this really meaningful week with them.
Yeah. And I think you tapped on something that I'm really working on articulating more in my own websites and the way that I talk about it, which is, and you tapped on it exactly, the differentiation between a wish and a goal. And the wish is really connecting you not only to your heart, but how you want to feel.
Yes.
And I think when we were kids and we had this limitless imagination, we so believed in our imagination that we could take literally a pen and make it a wand, or we would take a pillowcase and suddenly we'd have like the strength of a superhero. And it was real. And more important than the idea of feeling like it was real, it was the feelings that literally washed over our bodies. Mm-hmm. So when we're wishing and we're doing it with, let's say, a guided visualization, like I do in the wish circles, you're seeing this moment play out as if it were a movie. But I would say more important than gleaning the insights of what you are doing, it's how you feel.
Yeah.
So that when you are going about your day, getting triggered like we all do, you have that touch point to sort of remember what's inside, what's that wish, how that wish made you feel, going back to that place and choosing to change your story in that moment. And so there's not this gap between, oh, you're living in your present, and there's this gap between, I just can't be happy until I achieve this wish. No, it's now that that story is there, let me access it and drink from it. And then by doing so, you're literally changing your entire body, your energy, your feelings, so that when you walk into a cafe, you've got that energy. When your family comes home from their busy day, you've got that energy. So it has this ripple effect that changes your present moment as much as it changes the trajectory of you actually achieving the wish, the future.
I think that's so true. And I often say that I like to coach from the feeling line, right? Because we know how we want to feel. Some people don't even know what their wish is because but they do know how they want to feel. And so then they can sort of connect with that already. And that actually, I know you talk about manifesting, but that's how the wish manifests, because you already know the feeling and you start practicing it and connecting with it.
Right. So it would be really interesting, and I would love to get you to a wish circle, or if you have a select group of people who already have their wishes, maybe we do a virtual wish circle, because there is some scaffolding there that could really be an interesting adjunct to, to take it deeper, or to, put it even more alignment. Who knows? It'd be curious to see, your thoughts, just your own journey, how your thoughts align with, sort of what you're imagining. Because I think for me, when I see something in a visualization, it gives me insight into what I'm ready to create, but also something that maybe I'm not honoring in my life right now. Something that my being is like, I'm always barefoot, for example. Now, most of the time I'm barefoot, but there's something that there is insight in that particular detail that I can bring into my life right now. So that just the consciousness of, like, if I'm feeling a little bit stressed or tired, kick off your shoes, go out in the yard, get grounded, and feel that feeling. It just changes. It changes the energy.
When you said that, I think that my version of it is, because part of this week is yoga and part of this week is meditation. And so we're doing a golden light meditation on now they don't have their bracelets yet because they get their bracelets at the end of the week. But I almost feel like they're sort of manifesting it and connecting with it along the way. And so I think it is a version of that sort of visualization that they're working up towards it. And I think that probably the way I'm doing it is they don't even know they're working towards it, which I'm thinking for the people that I work with, the physicians, like, they would probably be skeptical if they thought they were working towards it. But once they've already connected with it, they know exactly what it is that they want to feel.
I love that. I love that so much. And, and I really also love the fact and want to honor the fact that this is meant to be used. This meaning wish beads and wish work and all this stuff is meant to be playful and fun and iterative, meaning you can use it however you want to use it. I'm just so thrilled that you are excited by the alignment of it, and that it can be a supportive component to the work that you're doing. And I also think I have never heard anybody talk about the specificity of coaching physicians. And I think that is so completely critical.
Yes,
because
it is.
These individuals, including yourself, the giving and the output of energy, the sensitivity, the dynamic, the pressure is so much that how do you fill that well back up so that because I'm assuming, like most demanding jobs, but certainly in the medical profession, there's not much opportunity to catch your breath and to sort of fill your own
Well, and
cup
I
up
think
first.
a lot of the work that I do on these retreats is actually giving them tools to catch their breath.
Right.
And tools to actually, I teach people how to breathe, because as physicians, we pretty much hold our breath all day long.
Yeah.
And that's where we're sort of trained to do that. And then we're so busy that we don't even pause to breathe. And so we actually do work around catching our breath. But it is a critical area for coaching. And I actually worked in physician wellness for 20 years while I was practicing as a pediatrician. Now I do this full time,
Yeah.
actually working with physicians full time, because it's such a need. But
Such a
I
need.
think it's really critically important for them to figure out, one, how to do it at a retreat, but two, how to take it home and remember. And that's actually one of the purposes of the bracelets and the other things that my business is called Pause and Presence. And so I also send them home with these rocks that are pause and presence. I have a presence one.
Beautiful.
And we know they actually do this for they get continuing medical education for it, because we know that work about burnout and work about mindfulness and coaching is actually evidence-based to help prevent burnout and help promote sustainability and the ability to keep practicing, which we would really love for all of our physicians to be happy, healthy, and whole. But we also know that having people reflect on their experience and having visual reminders brings them back to the things that they learned. And so how fun that it could be a bracelet as opposed to, some more, it's just a really lighthearted and fun way of bringing that in. And I think one of the other things that the wishes tie into is that a lot of the work that I do, we are trained as physicians to think in certain ways that are not necessarily helpful to living a happy, healthy, and aligned life.
The irony.
The irony, right. We're trained to catastrophize. We're trained to doubt ourselves. We're trained to literally think we're imposters, because that keeps us doing more and more work. And we're trained to people please and be perfectionists and all of these things. And so I do think that part of the work that we do is to help people see all of these ways in which we're trained to think, and to also not blame themselves, right? We were trained to literally think this way. We were trained to think there's a right way and a wrong way to think, in fact.
Yeah.
And so to see that, and then to decide with intention how they want to move forward, I think is one of the things that I teach is actually what love would do, is a question. And I think when we practice medicine now, it's much easier. I'm a pediatrician, so what love would do is very easy in pediatrics. But I also think it's really helpful in geriatrics. It's really helpful anywhere.
Absolutely.
If it's, love for you, love for your patient, love for your team, love for your hospital, love for your community and the world, then people can start to make decisions, because love for yourself wouldn't work 40 hours in a row and not sleep. And love for the patient wouldn't either, honestly. But many of us were trained that we're supposed to sacrifice and be martyrs in that way. And so it's really hard to step out of that without emotions such as love. But none of us were even trained to connect with how we feel. In fact, this whole feeling thing is so much more important for doctors, because we were told not to feel, right? When I was trained, if you felt like that would distract you from your work. And yet, of course, we all know that that's not possible. Practicing medicine for 20 years, of course, you're going to feel when something difficult is happening.
Right.
But we were trained to try to turn that off. And so many physicians who coach with me don't even know how they feel when they show up. And so this can also be like a reminder of what you want to be feeling. And that it's okay to feel. For some of them, they're really tuning back into that just connection with who they are, and like the fact that they have feelings, and the fact that they're human. And I love
don't you think that I would imagine that there's also research that shows that there are more positive outcomes when a doctor is working this way. I mean, I think like we're all hopefully learning to be more conscious humans. Hopefully, yes, I'm going to hold that as an intention. And that of course, in the medical field, coming from a place of love for yourself, for the client, for the patient, for their families, better outcomes, because you feel cared for, that somebody cares.
And that's actually why a lot of this work becomes part of our continuing medical education. I'm like, it's the most important things that we weren't taught in medical school, that we all really need to know. in order to practice in a way that's sustainable. And to me, that's what we want, because that's what our patients want, because they still need doctors, and we all want to be able to do it in a healthy and whole,
Right.
aligned way.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I'm so grateful that you're doing this work. I think it is absolutely such necessary, important work, especially, I still feel like we're coming off of the pandemic, so to speak, because that took an unimaginable toll on the entire medical teams and staff who had to be really at the front lines of all of that.
Yeah.
And we certainly want a healthy and happy medical workforce, because that's such an important component to just any society functioning well.
Right.
And to bring that kind of presence and pause and love, and it's just beautiful. So what was the moment for you that made you decide this is going to be that jump from going from presumably a pediatrician full time to and recognizing that your true passion was to enter the wellness space?
Yeah. And I will say, I don't know if it was a moment of jump. It was probably about a 5-year transition. And, I had worked in wellness my whole career, and I loved it. And I knew that I loved it. I also loved being a pediatrician. And I worked for Kaiser, or the Permanente Medical Group. So I did this for my organization for years.
Sure.
But I had gotten coached myself when I was a mom of 3 teenagers, and I was the chief of my department, and I was the chief of physician wellness. And my husband developed some pretty significant depression. And that was the thing. And I would say that pushed me over the edge. I was like, I needed, and there was no support. And I was the wellness chief, but there was no support for, especially something mental health related, right? We have more support. Say your husband had cancer, there is actually more support available as a physician. But, and so I ended up hiring a coach, and I had kind of been listening about coaching and learning about coaching. And so I worked with someone over 6 months she was not a physician. And at that time, there weren't any physician coaches. It was not a thing, but she was married to a physician. So I thought maybe she would know. And she was about my age. So I thought maybe she would know. And what I found through my whole journey of coaching is that I felt like this is the thing that doctors really need to know. And along that same time was when I became a yoga teacher. And I also went back to yoga. And the first day, my teacher just taught us how to breathe again. And I was like, wow, I haven't been breathing in 3 years with my teenagers and everything going on. And I had opened up a new medical clinic for our organization. And so I literally bought a year pass for yoga every day, because I knew that if I did that, it was like unlimited, I would go. Right. So I did that in coaching at the same time. And by the end of my coaching of 6 months, I had already become a yoga teacher, and I had signed up to do coach training. And I didn't actually know at the time that I was going to do this at all. I had no idea. So what I knew was I really wanted to understand them and figure them out. And then when I did them together in that way, I was like, these things together we call it synergistic in medicine. They just work together and they change everything. And so I, actually still practiced for another couple of years, and I tried kind of bringing it in with my patients and doing different things. And I just kept having this gnawing feeling that I was really meant to be doing something else. And so I took a sabbatical right before COVID. I didn't know COVID was coming. And I actually resigned from my practice in January when COVID came in March. I had no idea it was coming. So I decided that I just almost couldn't not do this path because I felt like I had these tools, and I could, within an organization, I could maybe do 5%, but on my own, I could be nimble and do all these things. And so I resigned and decided to start doing this. And then COVID came, which turned out for me really well, because as you mentioned, it was so hard on all the doctors, and I feel bad saying that. And yet here I was. I mean, and thank goodness I was there to be helpful.
Exactly. Thank goodness you were there. Absolutely.
And I didn't obviously start doing retreats for a while. And the retreat actually happened very serendipitously, in that I was on a family trip. And because of COVID, this place had been turned into just like a VRBO because it's a yoga retreat center. And we went there for a family vacation, and we had rented it because they had different spaces where you could stay and you could eat outside. And so different parts of our family could get together. And then I thought, wow, they have this yoga studio. And I noticed how many single rooms they had. And I was like, doctors would come to single rooms and they were desperate for help. And so I had put in this group that I'm a part of called the Mindful Healthcare Collective. It's a Facebook group. And we had done, it began during the pandemic, basically just to help people, doctors in particular. And I had been teaching yoga there every Saturday. And actually, I still teach free yoga to doctors every Saturday online because it's fun. And it just began in the pandemic and it became this beautiful thing. And so I shared there that I had this opportunity and would anybody be interested in coming? And it was like 6 weeks from then because they just happened to have a space. And like 100 people said, I want to come. I mean, I only had 7 spots, but so I did it. And I had to, the whole reason my husband is our chef for these retreats is that there was no catering, right? Because it was COVID. So you had to do your own cooking.
Yeah.
And my husband's an incredible chef.
That's great.
And he has actually since left his job as a lawyer to work with me full time and do these retreats. And like,
I love it.
Much happier, much more aligned. And he has his own wish bracelet. That's another story I should add here, which is he got very upset with me at one point. He was like, you've given these out to everybody else and you've never given me one. And I was like, oh, so anyway, I did get him one for his birthday.
Okay. And then did he stop his working as a lawyer after he made his wish?
No, it would have been his wish. It would 100% have been his wish.
Oh, wow.
But it was definitely his wish. He had actually been asking me for a while, but I was like, we just have to wait and see how this is all going to turn out.
Yeah.
But that would have been the wish in the bracelet for sure. So
that's so cool.
But it's so now he has one too. So that's sort of how it came about. And what's interesting and has just come to mind is my very first coach. And I work with a different coach now, and I've been working with her for a while. So the one who gave me the wish bracelet is different than this first coach. Mm-hmm. But the first coach that I worked with had this exercise, which was called Green with Envy. It's actually like a wishing exercise. That's why I want to bring it up here. And it was like the place that you've been that you were really jealous and you just thought like, I really want to do that. Yeah. And immediately for me, it was this, and I was not a yoga teacher, wasn't doing yoga at the time. It was this yoga studio that I'd been to in Hawaii that was on a mountaintop. And there was this woman who was running it. And I was like, I just really wanted to be her, even though I knew it was totally impractical. And now I look at sort of, but when I did that exercise, it got me really tapped into like, wow, all my wishes were kind of in there because it was very much a wellness space and it had a park and it had a view and it had fresh air and nature, like all of the things that are so important to me. And so it's interesting because that gets you tapped in again to your wishes in just a different framework.
Well, definitely. And I just had the opportunity to hear Elise Lowen. I don't know if you've read her book yet, On Our Best Behavior. And it's a wonderful book, amazing. And she is brilliant, brilliant woman. And she structures it around the 7 deadly sins. And she talks about envy in particular as a really potent and positive way to see what you are longing for. And it's different from like a jealousy, which are almost like a little bit mad about somebody else. But envy is that feeling of like a yearning, like a
it's
wanting.
Like a very deep wish.
It's
the wish you won't let yourself see.
Right. But then we're taught like, it's not bad to envy everybody. You shouldn't envy anybody else. But what I found is, especially in the wishing world, that there are so many people that really stifle wanting anything. So many people then confess to me, I have no idea what to wish for. Like even the thought of being asked, what is your greatest wish, comes with a little bit of panic and anxiety because they just don't know. So the idea that green with envy, it can be a very inquisitive gateway in to really
to help you know what you wish when you don't know.
Yeah. Or what do you see and kind of go like, oh, I wish I were there, whether it's traveling or a career or somebody's home you go to, and then ask yourself, what is it about that home? It's not just, a bigger house, or that's kind of just vague, but sometimes you enter a space and it just feels good. And if you tap that nudge into curiosity, then you may find something that's really potent for you that speaks to you. And it could be as simple as a candle. It could be a scent that's in the house, or the quality of the light, or a certain throw rug, or I don't know, it doesn't matter. But I think we often we kind of push away from those feelings of, I'm wanting this, I don't have it, that feels bad, I'm going to block or push away. And it's fun to want things. It's fun to work for things. It's fun to change it up and reinvent.
Well, and I think this whole idea of wishing, it's a lighthearted way to like dip a toe in, because I'm thinking, in the medical world, like we aren't supposed to want anything. We're just supposed to be there. We're very much there to serve. And yet I think you can't serve and give endlessly. And people do have wants. And so allowing people to wish is like a way that it's okay to want something. And, I always think sometimes we feel selfish or guilty wishing, and it's like, actually, it's just a beautiful thing. It brings more beauty into the world. And usually the thing we wish for is something good.
It
makes the world a better place. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm interested in your take too. We tapped on it a little bit, but I often find that people are very comfortable wishing for other people. And then they think even the act of wishing for themselves is selfish, which you just talked about.
Yeah.
And so changing the consciousness around what does that look like? I mean, I don't know about you, but in my family, if I'm happy, pretty much sets the tone for the whole household.
Yes. I think
and the flip is also true.
Yeah. So, very, very true. And I think if I think about it, if I hadn't followed sort of wish/dream, whatever you want to call that, to do this work, I often ask that question, like, what will the world miss out on if you don't do it? And that's something I work with doctors on, because they don't want the world to miss out. And so then it makes it okay. But what their inner wishes are generally will make the world a better place.
Yeah. And
even though it's about their wish.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that. I'm going to put you on the spot, but you don't have to answer.
Okay.
But is there any part of your wish that you want to share, about something that you're wishing for?
Well, I will say that many of the wishes, and it's interesting, I haven't taken them out, but most of them were sort of about what I wanted to do. And many of those have already happened, and that I've really grown and done. I definitely wanted to do more and more retreats, and I started with 2 a year, and then I went to 5 and 7 and 8. And so like, it's
awesome.
So that is part of it. Part of my wish, which I will just put out there, is I hope someday to have my own retreat center. Now I actually use someone else's, and it's perfect. It's fine. But, and I have, my youngest child is graduating from high school this year, so I can't actually make this wish come true until after he leaves anyway. But, so that is definitely in my wish, although I kept it kind of vague because I just don't know. I'm not sure. And I feel like this is important for me in the wish. Like, so I put it as more like land. But I have a vision of what that land would look like and what the view would look like. And like,
that's awesome.
But
what's one detail that you know for sure? What's one detail for sure?
It's funny. It's the light. And I can't really tell you what the light is, but I know exactly what the light is.
Yeah.
And it has a view. It's not, in the bottom of the canyon. It's on the top, right?
Yeah.
I just know that
this is what I love about specificity. I love this about specificity. And my thought is like, if you know one piece of it, suddenly there is this consciousness of like, this place exists. Like it's real.
Yeah, it definitely exists.
It exists. So then it becomes almost this game of teasing out more of the details. Why? Because it actually is very practical. Because let's say, for example, you're in your visualization, and yes, we have to do a visualization.
That's okay.
You'll get even more details. But you are somewhere and you're looking, that it has a view. Okay. So what are you looking at? Are you looking at an ocean? Are you looking at mountains? Does it feel like Canada or Hawaii?
I know already. I'm like, I know what the view is. Yeah,
exactly. So then you're like, interesting. So when I look behind me, what do I see? Do I see like a mid-century ranch kind of house? Do I see multiple buildings? Do I see a big deck? And my invitation to you is that your being already knows a lot about this space. So then what happens is you can begin to start journaling more and more and more and more about the space. You can do vision boards or Pinterest boards and put all those details. And then becomes the very practical notion of you either going on Zillow or getting a realtor, because it sounds like you know the area.
I already have a realtor.
You already have a realtor. But
Yeah.
imagine the gift to that realtor. Just think about that. When you literally go to them and say, here's what I'm imagining, and it is so specific, it makes that direct line of intention so clear that not only a realtor, in the very practical sense, can go find that piece of property for you, but you are also telling the universe very clearly what you want. And that's the thing that I think what people don't recognize and acknowledge how powerful they are, how knowing they are to create what they truly desire. And it's so unique to you. Because if you asked your husband, even though he's involved in the business,
he's coming along to wherever this place is.
Of course he is. But just say, for sake of argument, you were like, honey, let's make this decision together. What does your dream retreat look like? You know, he may have a very different set of criteria. In this scenario, it sounds like he's already been like, I'm with you, babe. Like, this is your vision. Let's go, which is fantastic. But I think that that's part of the work in and around discovering how much we know, even though we think we don't know. We know our beings.
Well, I have this vision that place is there. And I think the piece, and I think this is probably, it's very interesting that I wrote the land, because it's the place. I don't even know what I'm going to do with it, or, but there's something about that. When I have that feeling, I just have this feeling that I'm, all of the things that I want to do would be possible. I don't even know what that means, but it just becomes very clear that it's that expansive,
I love it.
So interesting, because there's almost no words, but you just know.
And so for people listening, that's like, dang it, I don't know what they're talking about, those ladies. Let's try to discuss what that means. What does it mean to actually know, and cultivating this relationship with knowing? Because I think that is a practice. For me, over all the years of living my life in this kind of development of intuition, for me, when I have a knowing, it comes in the form of actually body chills. It's like what I call my full body yes. Now, if you don't get such a clear signal, a knowing just falls in the camp of it feels good. It feels good. In the same way that you can walk into a room and feel very, very bad. That means that your being is not feeling comfortable in a space. It's just an energetic reaction. And I think when I was talking to somebody recently, well, no, let me stay on this topic. How would you define knowing for you?
Well, I will sometimes get those chills, or I'll get the chills when I actually am coaching someone and they have the knowing, and it's so obvious that like everybody has the knowing. I think one of the things that I really help people figure out is listening and connecting with the knowing, because I think so many people are so busy and distracted. They think they don't know, and yet internally they do. And so I do a lot of hand to heart work, because a lot of people like hand on your heart and then the other hand on top. And there's actually a lot of science around this releasing oxytocin, which helps activate your amygdala, which helps you be creative and know. And so for me, and I always like to be transparent about this, doing it with my eyes open doesn't work for my inner knowing, because I have too much stimulation from the outside. So I have to close my eyes, and then I can usually know right away and ask a question. And I know the answer. I might not like the answer, or I might not have any idea how to make it happen. One of the things I found, though, and specifically on retreats, because we spend this time together doing things, is that not everyone gets their knowing there. So some people get their knowing in their belly, like two hands on their belly. Some people get it on the bottom of their feet. Barefoot. You mentioned barefoot, and I love to be barefoot. And so if I'm barefoot on the sand or barefoot on the grass, I can feel it there. But if I'm in shoes, the bottom of my feet are useless. And then there are some people who it's really the third eye or the forehead. And so as a yoga teacher, people who find that, they can just have a yoga block and put their head down. And so I've had doctors go back who will have a yoga block in their practice. And when they're just like the world is spinning and they're not really sure
Yep.
how to ground, they'll put their head down. And I think that's another way of connecting with your knowing. And I feel like it's more of it's energetic, but it's also physiologic. It's in your body knows if you
Yes,
pause enough to
absolutely.
listen.
Absolutely. Well, and I have to really also just take a moment and appreciate the name of your business,
Yeah.
because I was listening to a live talk last night with Eckhart Tolle, and he was explaining in no uncertain terms that meditation and the awareness of presence is no longer a luxury, but a necessity to raise the consciousness of the planet at this time. That we are being faced at a crossroads of consciousness, and that the planet is practically begging more people to bring pause and presence to the human plane, to the earth plane.
Mhm.
And so when I was hearing that last night and I was thinking about our conversation today, I was so grateful to find another warrior on the path of saying, these practices. It's funny, I'm getting chills right now.
Yeah, me too. I was like, wow.
Knowing,
Yeah. Yeah.
but to find another person who is doing that work, in your own way, in your own community that so desperately needs it, that there are individuals who are finding one another, in the case of you and I finding
Mhm.
one another with the tools that we
Yeah.
bring to the world, but who are really just saying, these are these gentle practices, gentle practices that you can integrate into your life right now. Like, you don't have to stop being a doctor, or you
Mhm.
don't have to blow up your life. And if you're making a new wish come true, you don't have to destroy your life to make that new thing happen, but you can invite this new consciousness. And so, embedded in the name of your company, this idea of pausing, silencing all the distractions and the demands of modern life, and pausing to embrace presence, to allow presence into your life, was really precisely what he was talking about. So
Wow.
thank you for naming your
Thank you for
company that
sharing.
and doing the work that you're
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
because it's yes, it's tools. It's tools like, your heart and breath work or yoga or wishing, or all of these tools which give our brains and our bodies like tasks. It's like our gateway in. And then it really is practice. And so even if it is pausing and just being aware of your feeling of your body, the feeling of the space around you for just a minute, that's the call to action right now.
And I think you also mentioned practice, which I think is so important.
Mhm.
That I think we need to practice wishing, honestly. It might sound silly, but for those of us who don't know what we'd wish for,
Mhm.
I think we actually have to practice, and we have to practice pausing, and we have to practice the presence, and
Yep.
all of that. It's actually simple to practice if you set that as an intention, or you set your attention to it. But I think we spend so much time being too busy to practice any of these things. And yet
Yeah.
the gifts of them are just so vast.
Yeah, absolutely. As I started off in this conversation, this idea of um, really changing the focus of my company.
Yeah.
Not so much Wish Beads as a product, but really leaning into the wish work, teaching about wishing. I'm developing a program for schools. The original idea for Wish Beads came as the paper bead experience, which I would love to share with you because I think you would love it.
Yeah.
And the idea of teaching people wishing as a practice, as a way in, and as a way to consistently tap in with it so that it becomes a new habit. This idea of focusing on what is possible by connecting with how you want to feel, and then tuning your attention with that new story into the world, and then see for yourself that when you start looking at at life not through the lens of it being aggressive or contrary or survival, but rather looking for opportunities to connect, to expand, for compassion, all the sort of camp good, It does change everything, but it has to start. It's an inside job. Nobody can give that to you in the same way that other people can't really make your wishes come true. It's an inside job.
Yeah.
So.
And I love this idea of what is possible, because I think we spend so much time talking about what's not possible and why things won't work. And,
worst
in medicine,
case scenarios,
to look at what's wrong and what's broken. And so this idea of shifting our attention to what's possible. And that is actually what a wish is, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it doesn't even seem possible.
Right.
I actually, I was mentioning that my son is applying to college. I have 3. This is my last one. And one of the things I love about applying to college with kids is that you get to learn, remember/learn more about them. And you think you know them, but then they have to write about their lives and what they're good at and who they are. And this son actually believes that pretty much anything is possible. And he believes he's just that way. I actually have 2 kids that are kind of like that, and I don't know where they got it from. But
maybe you.
But I'm just fascinated, because I actually was thinking, like, wouldn't it be nice if you just showed up always thinking everything was possible? It's like he just thinks we just haven't figured it out yet, but of course it's possible. And of course I could figure it out. And so I feel like it's that lens is such a different lens on the world. Right. And so some of us need wishes to help us get there and focus our attention on it. Right. And he might actually, that's a very interesting thought. So while he thinks everything is possible, I don't think he actually probably needs to narrow it to what he wants to make possible. And that's also what the wish does.
Yeah, so true. And in an ideal scenario, we would be wired to always be thinking of a best case scenario. Yeah. What's the best case scenario? Yeah. As opposed to the default, as you talked about, certainly with physician training, the worst case scenario, just to make sure that everyone's prepared, let's, brace yourself. Yeah. And I'm not to belittle, I don't know enough about being a physician, but I do think that we're in a place where we're recognizing that our choices are going to determine the future of the world. And
one of the things that I bring up in this physician space, which I think is relevant here, is that there are times when thinking about the worst case scenario is helpful, and there are other times when it's not. And so it might be relevant in the operating room or in the emergency room, but if you keep that lens everywhere, then your life is colored that way. And so there are spaces for wishing, and there are spaces for focusing on the surgery at hand. Yeah. But I think we can actually all be both. And but we do have to intentionally make room for this other thing that we're not as comfortable at, and that as a society, we don't talk about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing, a whole new lens to Wishbeads at your retreats. And I love this idea that people are wearing them and hopefully bringing them into their practice. But I'm just so thrilled, and I can't wait to see all that you're continuing to build. I have absolutely no doubt that this retreat is happening, this retreat center.
Yeah.
No doubt at all. I can sort of picture it in my mind as well.
Yeah.
And as I said, you're a kindred spirit. So it's just great to know you and connect with you.
Thank you so much. It was really fun to have the conversation.
Thank you so much for listening and watching. And of course, you can learn more about Jessie in our show notes, and you can go to her website over at jessiemahoney.md.com. Thank you again. And if you love our podcast, be sure to leave us a review or share it with your favorite friends and family. Let's get the world wishing. See you next time.